Sarah Martinez had always been the kid who fixed things. While other children played with dolls, she was patching up scraped knees and bandaging her little brother's cuts. Her father, a retired Army medic, taught her how to stop bleeding and clean wounds properly. By age 12, she could suture better than most adults. Growing up in a small Texas town, Sarah dreamed of becoming a doctor. But when her family lost their ranch to debt, college became impossible. The military seemed like her only path to medical training. At 18, she enlisted as a combat medic, determined to save lives on the battlefield. Boot camp was brutal, but Sarah pushed through every challenge. Her drill sergeants noticed something special about her. She stayed calm under pressure and never panicked, even during the most intense training exercises. While other recruits crumbled during medical simulations, Sarah worked with steady hands and clear thinking. After graduating, Sarah was assigned to a forward operating base in Afghanistan. The desert heat was overwhelming, and the constant threat of enemy attacks kept everyone on edge. But Sarah thrived in this environment. She treated everything from minor injuries to life-threatening wounds, earning respect from hardened soldiers who had seen countless medics come and go. Her reputation grew quickly. Other units began requesting her specifically for dangerous missions. Sarah had an unusual ability to stay focused during firefights, continuing to treat wounded soldiers. While bullets flew overhead, she saved dozens of lives in her first year, but she wanted to do more. One evening, while cleaning her medical supplies, Sarah overheard a conversation between two Navy SEALs. They were discussing a sniper position that had been giving their team trouble for weeks. The enemy shooter had excellent cover and seemed to predict their every move. Multiple attempts to eliminate the threat had failed, and soldiers were dying because of it. Sarah had been practicing marksmanship in her spare time, using the base's shooting range to relieve stress. What started as a hobby had become a passion. Her medical training had given her incredibly steady hands and the ability to control her breathing perfectly, skills that translated surprisingly well to long-range shooting. She approached the SEAL team leader, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, after the briefing. Morrison was known for being tough and rarely accepting help from outsiders. Sarah explained that she might have a solution to their sniper problem, but Morrison just laughed. "Doc, stick to what you know," he said dismissively. "Leave the shooting to the professionals." Sarah didn't give up. She spent the next few days gathering intelligence about the enemy sniper's position and patterns. She studied the terrain, wind conditions, and timing of previous attacks. Her medical background had taught her to be methodical and analytical, skills she now applied to a completely different challenge. The breakthrough came when Sarah realized the enemy sniper was positioned near a small medical outpost. During her research, she discovered that the building had been used as a hospital before the war. The sniper was likely using the upper floors, which would give him an excellent view of the American positions while providing good cover. Sarah also noticed something the SEALs had missed. The sniper only fired during specific times of day, when the sun's position created shadows that concealed his muzzle flash. This pattern suggested he was highly trained and disciplined, but it also made him predictable. Armed with this information, Sarah approached Morrison again. This time she presented her findings professionally, using military terminology and tactical analysis. Morrison was impressed despite himself, but he still refused to let a medic join a combat mission. "I appreciate the intel, Doc," Morrison said, "but you're too valuable as a medic to risk on a sniper mission. We need you saving lives, not taking them." Sarah understood his position, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she could make a difference. Every day the enemy sniper remained active. More American soldiers were at risk. Her medical oath was to do no harm, but wasn't allowing preventable deaths to continue also a form of harm? That night, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She couldn't officially join the SEAL mission, but she could position herself to help if needed. She studied the mission plans, which were posted in the command center, and identified the most likely escape routes the enemy sniper might use. The next morning, as Morrison's team prepared for their assault, Sarah quietly gathered her medical supplies and her personal rifle, a precision weapon she had purchased with her own money and modified for long-range accuracy. She told her commanding officer she was conducting a routine medical supply check at a forward position, a half-truth that wouldn't raise suspicions. Sarah positioned herself on a ridge overlooking the target area, about 800 meters from the enemy sniper's suspected location. She had a clear view of both the SEAL team's approach and the potential escape routes. Her plan was simple: provide medical support if needed, but also be ready to engage the enemy if the opportunity arose. As she settled into position with her rifle, Sarah felt a strange calm wash over her. This was different from treating wounded soldiers, but the same focus and precision were required. She controlled her breathing just as she did when performing delicate medical procedures, and waited for the mission to begin. Through her scope, Sarah could see Morrison's team moving carefully through the streets below. They were professionals, but the enemy sniper had the advantage of knowing the terrain and having prepared positions. Sarah realized that this mission might not go as planned, and she might be the only person in position to make a difference. The morning sun was rising, creating the perfect lighting conditions for long-range shooting. Sarah checked her equipment one final time and settled in to wait. She had no idea that in a few hours, she would make a shot that would be talked about in military circles for years to come, earning her a place in SEAL Team legend and changing her life forever. The SEAL team moved like ghosts through the narrow streets, but Sarah could see they were walking into trouble. From her elevated position, she spotted movement in 3 different buildings. The enemy had set up multiple positions, not just one sniper. Morrison's team was about to be surrounded. Sarah grabbed her radio but hesitated. She wasn't officially part of this mission, and breaking radio silence could compromise the entire operation. Instead, she watched helplessly as the SEALs approached what looked like a carefully planned ambush. The first shot came from the main sniper position, just as Sarah had predicted. The bullet struck the wall inches from Morrison's head, sending concrete fragments flying. The SEAL team immediately took cover, but they were pinned down in an open courtyard with limited escape routes. More shots began coming from the secondary positions Sarah had spotted. The SEALs were caught in a crossfire, exactly what the enemy had planned. Morrison's voice crackled over the radio, calling for immediate backup and medical support. Sarah made her choice. She keyed her radio and broke protocol. Overwatch to ground. Team, you have multiple hostiles. Main target, 2nd floor, east window. Secondary positions, north and south buildings, 3rd floor. Count 3 shooters minimum. Morrison's voice came back immediately, filled with anger and confusion. Overwatch. Identify yourself. Who is this? Medical support with eyes on target. Area. You're in a kill box, Commander. Recommend immediate withdrawal to rally point. Before Morrison could respond, Sarah heard the distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle. Through her scope, she saw one of the SEALs go down, clutching his shoulder. Blood was spreading rapidly through his combat vest. The wounded SEAL was Petty Officer First Class Danny Chen, a combat veteran Sarah had treated before. He was lying in the open, exposed to enemy fire, while his teammates tried to reach him. Every time they moved, bullets forced them back into cover. Sarah's medical training kicked in immediately. From the blood pattern in Chen's position, she could tell he had been hit in the subclavian artery. Without immediate medical attention, he would bleed out in minutes. But no one could reach him while the snipers had clear shots at the courtyard. Ground team, your man is hit bad. Arterial bleeding. You have maybe 3 minutes before he's gone. Morrison's voice was desperate now. Can you get to him, Doc? Sarah looked at the distance between her position and Chen's location. It was over. 400 meters of open ground, all of it covered by enemy snipers. Even if she could make it there, they'd both be sitting ducks. Negative. Too much open ground. You need to neutralize the shooters first. We can't get a clear shot from here, they're too well protected. Sarah studied the enemy positions through her scope. The main sniper had excellent cover, but she had noticed something during her surveillance. There was a small gap in his protection when he shifted to target the south side of the courtyard. It was maybe a 6-inch window, available for only a few seconds when he repositioned. The secondary shooters were easier targets, but they were at extreme range for her rifle. She had practiced shots at this distance, but never under combat conditions with a man's life hanging in the balance. "I might have a solution," Sarah transmitted, "but I need you to trust me." "Who the hell are you?" Morrison demanded. "Martinez, combat medic attached to 3rd Battalion. I'm positioned on the ridge north of your location." There was a long pause before Morrison responded. "Martinez? The medic who saved Bravo Team last month?" "Affirmative." Another pause, then Morrison's voice came back, grimmer but more trusting. "What do you need, Doc?" Sarah was already calculating distances, wind speed, and bullet drop. "I need your team to draw fire from the main target. When he shifts to engage you, I'll have a small window, but I need Chen stabilized first, and I can't do that with 3 shooters covering the area. You're talking about a 600-meter shot on a moving target through a 6-inch gap," Morrison said. "That's nearly impossible." "I know," Sarah replied, watching Chen's blood pool grow larger. "But it's the only chance we have." Morrison made his decision. "Tell us what you need." Sarah took a deep breath and began coordinating what would become one of the most difficult shots in military history. "First, I'm going to take out the secondary positions. When I engage, they'll know where I am. So this has to work on the first try." She lined up her first shot on the north building. The enemy sniper there had been firing regularly, giving her a good read on his position. Sarah controlled her breathing just like when she was suturing a critical wound, and slowly squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out across the valley. Through her scope, Sarah saw the enemy sniper jerk backward and disappear from the window. One down. Immediately, the other 2 shooters began searching for her position. Sarah had already shifted to her backup shooting position, a technique she'd learned from reading military manuals during her off-duty hours. The south building sniper was more cautious, only exposing himself for quick shots. Sarah waited patiently, her crosshairs steady on the window where she expected him to appear. When he finally showed himself, Sarah was ready. Her second shot was even more precise than the first. The enemy sniper crumpled immediately, his rifle falling from the window. Now only the main target remained, but he was the most dangerous and best protected. Morrison's team was already moving, trying to draw his fire and create the opening Sarah needed. The enemy sniper took the bait, shifting his position to engage the moving SEALs. For exactly 2.3 seconds, a small portion of his head and shoulder would be visible through the gap Sarah had identified. She had one chance. If she missed, Chen would die, and Morrison's team might not survive the extended firefight that would follow. Sarah steadied her rifle, controlled her breathing, and waited for the perfect moment. Through her scope, she could see Morrison's team moving into position. Chen was still bleeding, his movements getting weaker. The enemy sniper shifted, just as Sarah had predicted. She saw the gap appear, a small target at an incredible distance. Her finger moved to the trigger, and everything seemed to slow down. This was the moment that would define her military career and earn her a permanent place in SEAL team history. Time seemed frozen as Sarah held her breath, her finger poised on the trigger. Through her scope, she could see the tiny opening that would appear for less than 3 seconds. The enemy sniper was beginning his shift, and Chen's life hung in the balance. The gap appeared exactly as Sarah had calculated. 643 meters away, through a space barely wider than a man's head, she could see her target. Her medical training had taught her precision under pressure, and now every lesson was being put to the ultimate test. Sarah fired. The bullet flew true, crossing the distance in less than a second. Through her scope, Sarah saw the enemy sniper's head snap back before he disappeared from view. The shooting stopped immediately. Target down, target down." Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. "Outstanding shot, Doc. Now get down here. Chen's fading fast." Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed her medical bag and began running down the ridge toward the courtyard. The terrain was rough and dangerous, but she had memorized every rock and depression during her surveillance. Her combat medic training had included emergency movement under fire, and she used every technique she'd learned. It took her nearly 4 minutes to reach the courtyard, precious time that Chen couldn't afford to lose. When she arrived, Morrison's team had formed a defensive perimeter around their wounded teammate. Sarah immediately dropped to her knees beside Chen and began her assessment. The situation was worse than she had thought. The bullet had indeed severed the subclavian artery, and Chen had lost a dangerous amount of blood. His face was pale, his breathing shallow, and his pulse was weak and rapid. Without immediate surgery, he would die within minutes. "I need to operate right here, right now," Sarah told Morrison as she opened her medical kit. "This can't wait for a medevac." "Whatever you need, Doc," Morrison replied, positioning his men to provide cover. Sarah had performed emergency surgery in combat zones before, but never under such extreme conditions. She had no operating room, no proper lighting, and limited supplies. But she had something more valuable: steady hands and the absolute determination to save Chen's life. Working quickly but carefully, Sarah exposed the wound and located the damaged artery. The bullet had created a clean tear, which was actually fortunate. Jagged wounds were much harder to repair. Using techniques she had learned in advanced combat medical training, she began the delicate process of repairing the artery. "Talk to him," Sarah instructed Morrison as she worked. "Keep him conscious. I need him fighting." Morrison knelt beside Chen's head, speaking in the calm, steady voice that had led men through countless dangerous missions. "Stay with us, Chen. Your daughter's birthday is next week. You promised you'd call her." Chen's eyes fluttered, but he remained conscious. Sarah could see him trying to stay alert, fighting against the blood loss and shock that wanted to drag him under. The repair took 18 minutes, an eternity in combat medicine, but Sarah couldn't rush. One wrong move would tear the artery beyond repair. Her hands never shook, her concentration never wavered. This was exactly what she had trained for, even if she had never imagined it happening under these circumstances. Finally, Sarah completed the arterial repair and began closing the wound. Chen's color was already improving as his blood pressure stabilized. The immediate crisis was over, but he still needed proper medical care. "He's stable," Sarah announced, sitting back on her heels, "but he needs a hospital as soon as possible." Morrison was already on the radio, calling for immediate medical evacuation. While they waited, he turned to Sarah with an expression she had never seen before, a mixture of respect, gratitude, and amazement. "Martinez, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen," he said quietly. "That shot you made was impossible. And then you saved Chen's life with battlefield surgery that would challenge most doctors." Sarah shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "Just doing my job, Commander." "No," Morrison said firmly. "What you did today went way beyond any job description. You single-handedly eliminated 3 enemy snipers at extreme range, then performed life-saving surgery under fire. I've been a SEAL for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like it." The rest of Morrison's team gathered around, all of them looking at Sarah with new eyes. These were elite warriors who had served with the best soldiers in the world, but they had never encountered anyone quite like her. Petty Officer Second Class Mike Rodriguez, the team's demolitions expert, spoke up first. "Doc, where did you learn to shoot like that?" "That was a 600-meter shot through a tiny gap." "I practiced a lot in my spare time," Sarah replied modestly. "My medical training helped with the precision and breath control." "Practiced a lot?" Rodriguez laughed. "Lady, I've seen Marine snipers who couldn't make that shot. You just redefined what's possible." The helicopter arrived 20 minutes later, and Sarah supervised Chen's loading and transport to the field hospital. Before the aircraft lifted off, Chen grabbed her hand weakly. "Thank you," he whispered. "My family thanks you." Sarah squeezed his hand gently. "Get well, soldier. Your daughter needs her daddy." As the helicopter disappeared into the distance, Morrison approached Sarah one more time. "Martinez, we need to talk. What you did today changes things. You've got skills that could make a real difference in this war, but not as a regular combat medic." Sarah looked at him curiously. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" "I'm suggesting that you might be wasted in your current role," Morrison replied. "Have you ever considered special operations training?" Sarah had never seriously thought about it. Special operations were for elite soldiers, not medics from small Texas towns. But today had shown her capabilities she didn't know she possessed. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I became a medic to save lives, not take them." Today you did both, Morrison pointed out. You eliminated threats that were killing our people, and you saved Chen's life. Sometimes the best way to save lives is to stop the people who are trying to take them. Sarah considered his words as they walked back toward the base. Everything she thought she knew about herself and her role in the military was changing. She had discovered abilities that could make her incredibly valuable in ways she had never imagined. But with those abilities came difficult questions about what kind of soldier she wanted to be and what she was willing to do to protect her fellow Americans. The answers to those questions would shape the rest of her military career and determine whether she would become one of the most legendary special operations soldiers in modern military history. Word of Sarah's incredible shot and life-saving surgery spread through the base like wildfire. Within hours, soldiers who had never spoken to her before were approaching to shake her hand. Officers from different units wanted to hear the story firsthand. But Sarah found the attention uncomfortable and tried to return to her normal duties. That evening, Morrison found her in the medical tent, organizing supplies and checking equipment. She was methodical and focused, just as she had been during the morning's crisis. "Mind if we continue our conversation from earlier?" Morrison asked, sitting down across from her work table. Sarah looked up from the bandages she was counting. "Commander, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm not special. Operations material. I'm a medic who got lucky with a long-range shot." Morrison shook his head. "Martinez, luck doesn't explain what you did. You analyzed enemy positions that trained intelligence officers missed. You calculated a shot that veteran snipers said was impossible. You performed surgery under fire that saved a man's life. That's not luck, that's exceptional skill and training." Sarah set down her supplies and faced Morrison directly. "Even if what you're saying is true, I took an oath to do no harm. Today, I killed 3 people. And by killing those 3 people, you saved the lives of my entire team," Morrison replied. "Chen has a wife and 2 daughters. Rodriguez has a son he's never met because of deployment schedules. Every man on my team has family waiting for them to come home. You made sure that happened." The weight of Morrison's words settled on Sarah's shoulders. She had been so focused on the moral complexity of taking lives that she hadn't fully considered the lives she had saved. "What exactly are you proposing?" Sarah asked. Morrison leaned forward, his expression serious. "Cross-training. Keep your medical designation but add specialized skills. Advanced marksmanship, tactical planning, small unit operations. You'd still be a medic first, but you'd also be capable of much more." Before Sarah could respond, the tent flap opened, and Colonel James Harrison, the base commander, entered with 2 other officers Sarah didn't recognize. Everyone immediately stood at attention. "At ease," Colonel Harrison said. "Martinez, these gentlemen are from Special Operations Command. They'd like to speak with you." The first officer stepped forward, a tall man with silver hair and intense blue eyes. "Martinez, I'm Colonel David Stone from SOCOM. This is Major Lisa Park from Army Special Forces. We've reviewed the after-action reports from this morning's engagement." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. SOCOM officers didn't visit forward operating bases to chat with combat medics unless something significant was happening. Major Park consulted her tablet before speaking. "Martinez, your personnel file shows exceptional performance as a combat medic, but no advanced marksmanship training beyond basic military requirements. Can you explain how you made 3 precision shots at ranges exceeding 600 meters?" Sarah glanced at Morrison, who nodded encouragingly. "Ma'am, I've been practicing long-range shooting in my off-duty time. My medical training helps with breath control and steadying techniques." "Practicing where?" Colonel Stone asked. "The base shooting range, sir. I also studied ballistics manuals and practiced with different weather conditions." Colonel Stone exchanged glances with Major Park. "Martinez, we've spoken with the range master. He says you consistently hit targets at ranges that challenge experienced marksmen. Your groupings are tighter than most military snipers achieve." Sarah wasn't sure where this conversation was heading, but she sensed it would change her life dramatically. Major Park continued, "We're prepared to offer you specialized training, advanced marksmanship, tactical medicine, small unit tactics, intelligence analysis, You'd maintain your medical role but gain additional capabilities. What would that mean for my current duties? Sarah asked. You'd be assigned to special operations units that need both medical support and precision shooting. Capabilities, Colonel Stone explained. These are high-risk missions where having multiple skills in one person can mean the difference between mission success and failure. Sarah thought about Chen, lying in that courtyard, bleeding to death while enemy snipers prevented anyone from helping him. She thought about all the soldiers she had treated who might still be alive if someone had been able to eliminate threats more effectively. How long would the training take? 6 months, Major Park replied. Advanced combat medical training at Fort Sam Houston, followed by specialized marksmanship training at Quantico, then tactical operations training with Navy SEALs in Coronado. Morrison spoke up for the first time since the officers arrived. Colonel, with respect, Martinez has already proven she can do the job. What happened today wasn't beginner's luck. Colonel Stone nodded. We agree, Commander Morrison. That's why we're here. Soldiers with Martinez's combination of medical expertise and tactical skills are extremely rare. We believe she could make a significant impact on special operations. Effectiveness. Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Everything she had worked for, everything she thought she wanted was being offered to her in a completely different form. Can I have some time to think about it? She asked. Of course, Major Park said. But we need an answer within 48 hours. Training schedules are tight, and if you're interested, we need to begin processing your security clearance upgrades immediately. After the officers left, Sarah sat alone in the medical tent, trying to process what had just happened. Morrison returned about an hour later with 2 cups of coffee and a thoughtful expression. Lot to think about, he said, sitting down beside her. Commander, can I ask you something? Sarah said. Do you think I'm making the right choice if I accept their offer? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Martinez, I've been in special operations for most of my career. I've served with some incredible people, men and women who could do things that seemed impossible. But I've never served with anyone who combined your medical skills with your tactical abilities. He paused to sip his coffee before continuing. The question isn't whether you should accept their offer. The question is whether you can live with yourself if you don't. How many more Chens are going to die because the person who could have saved them was too afraid to step up? Sarah knew Morrison was right, but the decision still scared her. She had built her identity around being a healer, and now she was being asked to become something more complex. Someone who could both save lives and take them when necessary. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She walked around the base, thinking about her father's lessons about helping people, her medical oath, and the faces of the soldiers she had saved and lost. By morning, she had made her decision. She found Colonel Stone and Major Park at the command center, reviewing mission reports, over breakfast. Ma'am, sir, Sarah said, approaching their table. I've made my decision. I accept your offer. Major Park smiled for the first time since Sarah had met her. Outstanding, Martinez. When can you be ready to leave for training? As soon as my replacement arrives and I can brief them on current patients, Sarah replied. Colonel Stone stood and extended his hand. Welcome to Special Operations, Martinez. Something tells me you're going to redefine what's possible for combat medics. As Sarah shook his hand, she realized she was about to embark on a journey that would test every skill she possessed and teach her capabilities she never knew existed. The quiet medic from Texas was about to become one of the military's most unique and valuable assets. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the deck of a Navy destroyer off the coast of Somalia, watching the sun set over the Indian Ocean. She was no longer the same person who had left Afghanistan. The intensive training had transformed her into something the military had never seen before. A combat medic with elite sniper capabilities and tactical skills that rivaled seasoned special operations veterans. At Fort Sam Houston, she had mastered advanced trauma surgery and combat medicine techniques that most doctors never learned. She could now perform complex operations in field conditions that would challenge hospital surgeons. Her instructors had been amazed at how quickly she absorbed the most difficult procedures. Quantico had been different but equally intense. The Marine Scout Sniper School pushed her shooting skills to levels she hadn't imagined possible. She learned to make precise shots at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters in all weather conditions. Her natural abilities, combined with rigorous training, made her one of the most accurate marksmen in the entire program. But it was the SEAL training in Coronado that had truly changed her. Learning small unit tactics, advanced reconnaissance, and special operations planning had given her a completely new perspective on warfare. She understood now how all the pieces fit together. Medical support, tactical planning, and precision shooting were all parts of a larger puzzle. Now she was part of Task Force 160, an elite unit that handled the military's most sensitive missions. Her first assignment was a rescue operation that would test every skill she had learned. Commander Morrison, who had specifically requested Sarah for his new team, briefed her on the mission. 3 American aid workers have been kidnapped by pirates near the Somali coast. Intelligence indicates they're being held in a compound about 12 miles inland. The pirates are demanding ransom, but State Department won't negotiate. Sarah studied the satellite photos and intelligence reports. The compound was heavily guarded, surrounded by open terrain that would make a conventional assault nearly impossible. But she noticed something others had missed. "Commander, look at these medical supply deliveries," she said, pointing to surveillance photos. "The pirates have been bringing in antibiotics and surgical supplies. Someone in that compound needs serious medical attention." Morrison examined the photos more carefully. "You think one of the hostages is injured?" "Or one of the pirates," Sarah replied. "Either way, it creates an opportunity. Medical emergencies make people desperate and willing to take risks they normally wouldn't." The team spent 2 days planning the operation. Sarah's unique combination of skills made her the key to the entire mission. She would infiltrate the compound as a medical volunteer, treat whoever needed help, then signal the team when the hostages were secure. On the night of the operation, Sarah approached the compound alone, carrying a medical bag and wearing civilian clothes. She had memorized the guard positions, escape routes, and the exact location where intelligence suggested the hostages were being held. The pirates were initially suspicious, but when Sarah offered to treat their leader's infected gunshot wound, they quickly escorted her inside. The pirate commander had been shot during a failed ransom exchange 3 days earlier, and the wound was severely infected. Without proper treatment, he would die within days. Sarah assessed the wound professionally while secretly noting the compound's layout and security measures. "This is very serious," she told the pirate leader through a translator. "You need surgery immediately or the infection will kill you." The pirate leader, weakened by fever and pain, agreed to let Sarah operate. As she worked to clean and treat the infection, Sarah used the time to locate the hostages and identify the best escape route. The 3 American aid workers, 2 doctors, and a nurse were being held in a basement room with minimal security. The pirates had assumed they were too weak and frightened to attempt escape. They were wrong. After successfully treating the pirate leader, Sarah was allowed to rest in a small room near the hostages. At 2 a.m., when most of the guards were sleeping, she picked the lock on her door and made her way to the basement. "I'm Sarah Martinez, U.S. Army," she whispered to the shocked hostages. "I'm here to get you out." Dr. James Wilson, the lead aid worker, could barely believe what he was seeing. "How did you get in here?" "I'll explain later," Sarah said, helping them to their feet. "Right now we need to move. There's a SEAL team waiting for our signal, but we have to get to the extraction point." Sarah had identified a route that avoided most of the guard positions, but it required crossing 200 meters of open ground to reach the pickup location. If they were spotted, the guards would have clear shots at all of them. As they moved through the compound, Sarah stayed alert for any signs of danger. Her medical training had taught her to notice details others missed, and her tactical training had shown her how to move silently through hostile territory. They were almost to the exit when one of the guards noticed the open basement door. Shouts erupted throughout the compound as the pirates realized their hostages had escaped. Searchlights began sweeping the area, and armed men poured out of the buildings. "Run," Sarah ordered the hostages, pushing them toward the extraction point. "Don't stop no matter what happens." But the aid workers were weak from days of captivity and couldn't move fast enough. The pirates were gaining ground, and their vehicles would cut off the escape route within minutes. Sarah made a split-second decision that would save all their lives. She took up a position behind a low stone wall and opened fire on the pursuing pirates. Her shots were precise and devastating. Each bullet found its target, dropping the pirates before they could effectively return fire. Overwatch to ground. "Team," she radioed Morrison. "Package is moving to extraction. I'm providing cover. Multiple hostiles in pursuit." Morrison's voice came back immediately. "Copy, Overwatch. We see your muzzle flashes. Outstanding shooting. Extraction team is en route." For the next 8 minutes, Sarah held off more than 20 armed pirates single-handedly. Her marksmanship training paid off as she made shot after impossible shot in low-light conditions. Every round counted, and she didn't waste a single bullet. When the SEAL extraction team finally arrived, they found the 3 hostages safe and Sarah still in position, calmly reloading her rifle. Around her, the evidence of her incredible shooting was clear. She had eliminated multiple threats at ranges that challenged even veteran snipers. "Martinez," Morrison said as they boarded the helicopter, "that was the most impressive display of marksmanship and tactical thinking I've ever witnessed. You single-handedly saved this mission." But Sarah was already focused on her next responsibility, providing medical care to the rescued hostages who were dehydrated and suffering from various injuries sustained during their captivity. As the helicopter flew back to the destroyer, Dr. Wilson watched in amazement as Sarah seamlessly transitioned from elite sniper to skilled medic, treating his wounds with the same precision she had used to eliminate their captors. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Sarah looked up from bandaging his injured arm. "Just a medic who learned some new skills," she replied modestly. But everyone on that helicopter knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Sarah Martinez had become exactly what the military needed, a warrior healer who could both save lives and protect those who couldn't protect themselves. And this was just the beginning of what would become a legendary career in special operations. 5 years after that night in Somalia, Sarah Martinez stood before a room full of Navy SEALs at the Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado. She was no longer the uncertain combat medic who had stumbled into special operations. Now, she was Master Sergeant Martinez, one of the most decorated soldiers in modern military history, and she was about to receive an honor that would cement her place in SEAL Team legend forever. Admiral Robert Hayes, the commander of Naval Special Warfare, stepped forward with a small velvet box. "Master Sergeant Martinez, in recognition of your extraordinary service and unprecedented contributions to special operations, you are hereby awarded the Navy Cross, the first combat medic in history to receive this honor for actions combining both medical excellence and tactical precision." The room erupted in applause, but Sarah's mind drifted back to all the missions that had led to this moment. After Somalia, she had become the most requested operator in Special Forces. Her unique combination of life-saving medical skills and deadly accurate shooting had made her indispensable on the most dangerous missions. There had been the rescue of a downed pilot in Syria, where she had performed emergency brain surgery in a cave while enemy forces searched for them nearby. Her medical expertise had saved the pilot's life, and her marksmanship had eliminated 6 enemy soldiers who discovered their hiding place. In Iraq, she had single-handedly held off insurgents while treating wounded civilians in a bombed hospital. For 4 hours, she had moved between treating patients and returning precise sniper fire, never letting the enemy advance close enough to threaten the innocent people under her protection. The mission in Afghanistan that had earned her the most recognition involved rescuing an entire SEAL team that had been trapped behind enemy lines. Sarah had infiltrated a Taliban stronghold by posing as a medical worker, then systematically eliminated sentries from inside the compound while secretly treating the wounded SEALs and preparing them for extraction. But it was her work training, the next generation of special operations medics, that had truly earned the respect of her peers. Sarah had developed new techniques that combined tactical medicine with precision shooting, creating a hybrid skill set that was now being taught at special operations schools worldwide. Commander Morrison, now a full colonel, had been her partner on dozens of missions over the years. He stepped forward as Admiral Hayes finished pinning the Navy Cross to Sarah's uniform. "Sarah," Morrison said, using her first name in front of the assembled SEALs for the first time in their long partnership. "When I first met you, you were a combat medic who could make an impossible shot. Today, you're the soldier every special operator wants watching their back, whether they need someone to save their life or take out a threat at 1,000 meters." Sarah looked out at the faces in the room. Tough, experienced warriors who had seen everything the modern battlefield could offer. These men had served with the best soldiers in the world, yet they were looking at her with genuine respect and admiration. "Thank you, sir," Sarah replied. "But I want everyone here to understand something. What I do isn't magic, and it isn't natural talent. It's the result of combining two things the military has always done well: training medics to save lives and training snipers to protect people. I just put them together." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, one of the younger SEAL team leaders, raised his hand. "Master Sergeant, what advice would you give to medics who want to develop additional tactical skills?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "First, never forget that your primary job is saving lives. Every other skill you learn should support that mission. Second, precision matters in everything, whether you're suturing an artery or making a long-range shot. The same focus and steady hands that make you a good medic will make you a good marksman." She paused, thinking about all the soldiers she had served with over the years. "But most importantly, remember that the best weapon you have is your brain. Medical training teaches you to analyze situations quickly and make life or death decisions under pressure. Those same skills apply to tactical situations. Think first, shoot second." After the ceremony, Sarah walked along the beach near the SEAL training facility where she had learned so much years earlier. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that reminded her of the Afghan mountains where her journey had begun. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Danny Chin, the SEAL she had saved in that Afghan courtyard so many years ago. The message included a photo of Chin with his family, his wife and 2 daughters, now teenagers, smiling at a birthday party. "Doc," the message read, "my youngest just got accepted to medical school. She says she wants to be like the woman who saved her daddy's life. Thank you for everything. The whole SEAL community will never forget what you've done for us." Sarah smiled as she put her phone away. That was what it was all about. Not the medals or the recognition, but the knowledge that her skills had allowed people to go home to their families. As she headed back to the base, Sarah reflected on how much her life had changed since that morning in Afghanistan, when she had made an impossible shot to save Chen's life. She had started as a small-town girl who wanted to help people, and she had become exactly that, just in ways she had never imagined. The next morning, Sarah would begin training a new class of special operations medics, passing on the skills and knowledge that had made her legendary. Some of them would go on to save lives in ways that seemed impossible, just as she had done. But tonight, she was content to know that somewhere around the world, there were soldiers who were alive because of what she had learned to do. In the complex world of modern warfare, she had found a way to be exactly what she had always wanted to be, someone who made a difference when it mattered most. The SEALs were right. They would never forget the moment when a combat medic became a sniper and changed everything they thought they knew about what was possible. Sarah Martinez had proven that with the right training, determination, and unwavering focus on protecting others, anyone could become extraordinary. Her story would be told in military circles for generations, inspiring countless soldiers to push beyond the limitations of their job descriptions and find new ways to serve their country and protect their fellow warriors. In a flash, she had gone from medic to sniper, and in doing so, had become a legend.